Welcome to the AngelsWin.com podcast, featuring AngelsWin.com founder Chuck Richter. And now, here's Chuck Richter.
Well, hey, everybody. As you can see, we got Breezy Nowlan back. Thanks for coming on, Breezy. I told you everybody would have her back. And we got a new guest. We got Travis Painter back, or not back, but for the first time. Travis, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name's Travis. Grew up in Orange County. I live in Texas now, so I deal with Astro and Ranger fans all the time, and it's very tough because they actually, well, other than this year, they kind of suck this year, but the past 5 years have been very interesting as an Angel fan to live in Texas. So here I am.
Is there any difference between Astros and Rangers fans? You think are either one of them a little bit more harsh than the other, or towards Angels fans?
I was just at the Rangers-Angels game in May, and I actually no issues. They were very nice, very accommodating. People were talking in the stands, asking questions about the team, minor league players. Astro fans, a lot of bandwagon fans. I've noticed since when I first moved here to when they've gotten really, really good, they seem like they jump a lot. So if the Texans are playing well, the city's about the Texans. If the Astros are kind of struggling like they are right now, people are like cutting bait, even though they're still not that far out. But there's a lot more, I think, casual fans for the Astros compared to the Rangers, at least from what I've seen. Yeah. And I'm married into an Astros family, so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, everyone's Astro fan or Astro fans here. So
it could be worse. You could have been married into a Dodgers family.
That never.
But then again, that wouldn't have happened.
That would have been no right off the bat.
Or Boston Red Sox, which would be bad too.
Dodgers would be the worst. I think Yankees I could deal with. It's kind of it's a Yankee fan.
Yankees fans to me aren't that bad. All my experiences with Yankees fans have been pretty cool. They've always had this level of respect for the Angels, and I think it's because the Angels kicked their ass for so many years, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean that's just, and they've even recognized that, like you guys always, had our butts, especially in the 2000s,
well,
and even before that.
In whenever we acquired Mark Teixeira, my dad, my brother, and I went to Yankee Stadium to go to Angel game, like the 3 Angel games there. We took the subway wearing all of our Angels stuff, and it was filled with Yankee fans. And I thought, this was stupid. What are we doing? So we had to get jumped in the subway, and they were the most complimentary fans I've experienced. Like they were like, "Oh, the Eagles are playing good this year," but Astro fans, Dodger fans.
Breezy, you're on a little bit of a winning streak on the road. I've noticed. I think that we should start a GoFundMe to send you to every away stadium for the Angels the rest of the year. I mean, obviously they suck at home, but
they sure do. I was thinking that though. I was like, okay, our record is terrible at home, but it's obviously, well, I think it's just above 500 on the road. So I was like, chances are I'm going to get a win, here and there on the road. But so far I'm 3-3. So I would agree. I think we absolutely should start a GoFundMe. I am being flown out to Wisconsin next week for business. And I was like, I'm going to be super close to the Cubs stadium because I'm going to Madison. And I checked the Cubs schedule and the Angels are literally going to be playing that weekend. And I was like, do I just prolong my work trip and go to? I'm still deciding, but I think that would be so much fun. I would obviously just have to go by myself, which I don't love, but I don't know. We'll see.
But do we want them to win? Because if we do, does that make Artie not want to sell? But
I think our attitude as fans should always be that the team wins, right? And obviously, I mean, they don't have the pieces to be successful and to, win this division or even come close to a wild card spot, right? but I think I spoke to this many times in past podcasts. To me, it's just silver lining. So I look at the guys like Neto and Ohapi who are having great seasons. I mean, in their sophomore campaign, and Shanuel's starting to hit better. He's hitting for a lot more home runs than I thought he would hit.
Yeah.
And then you got Joyce that's looked really good in his last, I think, 4 or 5 appearances after he had that one blow up game. And then, so there's some things on the horizon. Caden Dana is a great prospect that we'll probably see at some point. And, there's the development of Luis Rengifo and hopefully, and who knows about Taylor Ward. I mean, he's starting to hit better as well, but it's nice to see your own guys starting to perform, right? The Kevin Pillars and Calhouns, they're all going to be gone. Carlos Estevez is going to be gone. He's pitching better, we'll get into this later, which I think that he continues to pitch as well as he has. I think we're going to see a good return for him, for a team that's contending. So those are the things I look for. I want them to win every game, right? And if they lose, they lose. You're just not as upset as you would be, right? If you're like, oh, this team's going all the way, and they're close in the standings. So, but
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I personally, I go to a lot of in-person games, so I would obviously much rather see them win than lose.
Right.
And like we were talking about with the Dodgers, I was just at the Dodgers game on Friday night against the Angels, and I was surrounded by Dodger fans. I was on the Dodgers side, but honestly, I really didn't see that many Angel fans anyways. I feel like, one, our ticket prices are so inexpensive right now because the team is doing bad. So it's almost like people are like, why am I going to go drive, an hour and a half to go watch them and pay so much more money? So it does make sense. But I was surrounded by Dodger fans, and there was one Angel fan sitting right behind me. And then there was like a few Angel fans sitting to the left of me. And that was it. Like, that's all I heard. Like, when we were doing well, I was standing up and I was clapping. And this one guy literally stood up. He was sitting like a whole row next to me, stood up, looked at me, came over and was like, do I need to put you in timeout? Like, you're in our area. You need to stop cheering. And I was like, oh, you just literally said the wrong thing to me, because now I'm going to be even worse. And then the guy in front of me, all of a sudden we start, then we came back after Shohei hit the home run. And he like calls the guy back over and was like, can you take her over to sit with you? I don't want to listen to her cheering. And I was like, what is wrong with you people? Like, I would never in my life tell people at the Angel Stadium who are rooting for the opposing team to be quiet. Like, that's part of the fun of actually being at the stadium, having the rivalry, sitting there cheering and, you know what I mean, egging each other on. But I would never be rude about it or like not want people to be excited for their team. It was just, it was crazy.
Unless they're obnoxious assholes, right? Then you have the right to tell them to sit down and STFU.
Yeah, there's a fair line, of course. And I, I was, when we were doing well, I would stand, I would clap, and then I'd sit right back down. Like, I wasn't being obnoxious. But yeah, it was such a different experience from coming from the San Francisco Giants series, where I became like best friends with all of the people sitting next to us that were all Giants fans, even though we were in the Angels section. And they all were like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, where's Mike Trout? Like, they obviously like didn't follow Angels baseball whatsoever. And I was like, where is Mike Trout? I don't know. But yeah, no, they were all literally the nicest fans. They were so kind to me. Like you were saying, your experience in at the Yankee Stadium, like they were so nice. So
yeah. I lived in Seattle for 16 years, and the fans there were pretty cool too. And it was nice because the Angels took 3 trips up there, right? So I would see them I would see at least 5 to 6 games, if not all the games. And I remember my daughter, she was, when she was younger, she would just, even when she was a teenager, she let the Mariner fans have it because she would scream so loud when the Angels did something well. And the fans were like, sit down. And then she would turn around, no, you sit down. So that's my little feisty little Italian.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I probably would have been a little more feisty if I had like an Angel fan with me, but I went with a Dodger fan, but she's really just a Shohei fan. So yeah, if I had like one person to be my backup, maybe, because I've actually gotten into a fight with like a 300-pound man at Angel Stadium who was a Dodger fan. So yeah, I've learned my lesson. I'm like, I like to pretend like I'm strong, but I'm not. So.
Oh my gosh. So Travis, you know some folks in the industry, some scouts in Major League Baseball. I think for 3 different teams.
Yeah, there's
What have you been? Oh, okay. What have you been hearing? Any and by the way, everybody listen out there. Travis is my little insider for angelswin.com. He's always giving me the little scoops, shoots me a text. And then sure enough, something happens, right? And so, yeah, he's a reliable guy. So what are you hearing?
I would not want to have Perry's job. I would be extremely frustrated constantly. I know 2 years ago, Ohtani would have been traded 100%. That was all. I mean, everyone kind of knows already stopped that, but Perry he was going to do it. And the packages that they were talking about, like teams from the Padres, Yankees, would have been really good and would have set us up for a few years.
That burned me.
Yeah, that still bothers me because I heard some of the Padre, not the proposals, but like who was being talked about or scouted, and who they gave up in the Juan Soto trade, and then a couple other names were kind of talked about as well. Because I think Preller was trying to get Soto and Ohtani. He was trying to get both, so he was going to completely trade away the farm for him. But I do know if Perry had his way with it, pretty much everyone would be getting traded. To me, it seems like it's going to be kind of an in-between selling and kind of holding. I'm expecting like Estevez, Strickland, Moore, the bullpen guys, they'll be traded. Estevez will probably get it if he keeps pitching like this for another, 3 or 4 weeks. Could get a decent return. Maybe a couple of like guys in the top 15 or 20 of a team's prospect list. Strickland, a month ago, could have gotten a decent prospect. Now it's kind of, he might be like on trade deadline day at the last minute, see if a team gets desperate. Ward, there's a ton of interest. Same with Rengifo. But I don't know if Artie's going to green light it because he has this idea that, well, to compete next year, we need both of them. So he's kind of missing the bigger picture that you could trade both of them for like 5 or 6 players. They could be in AAA ready to go. You clear money, you can go sign other free agents in the offseason. But he just kind of has this like he will not fully give up or, do a fire sale, which I don't understand because it's been, 7 years? 8 years, something like that in a row where it's just been. So I know of some of the teams that have been reaching out specifically about Ward and Rengifo and Tyler Anderson. That's the other name I forgot. Anderson. I'm pretty confident he's going to get traded, just because the starting pitching market is it's bare.
They got a lot of injuries. To contending teams.
But I do know Milwaukee, Baltimore, the Twins have been very interested in him lately, and all 3 of those teams have really good farm systems. So if you could get 2 or 3 guys from there, and they're not going to be the top. Like I think people assume, like, oh, someone in the top 5 of their farm list or farm rankings. It's probably going to be, you might get 2 or 3 guys in the top between 10 to 20 for him, and you just kind of hope that you get enough of them and see how many make it to the majors. But people need to have a realistic expectation that it's not going to be like you trade Anderson for Kerstad of the Orioles or Norby.
Right.
It's going to be like Dylan Beavers and maybe like Seth Johnson type, kind of that the middle. I mean, Beavers is well regarded, but not the top of the top. But if you make 4 or 5 trades like that and you get 2 or 3 players in each trade, you could kind of revamp the AA, AAA teams overnight.
Well, and remember, if you get a lot of guys like the Angels got, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, for Martin Maldonado, we got Patrick Sandoval, right? And he pitched really well in the Houston Astros system. And I mean, he pitched really well for us too, for the Angels, until he's had his struggles the past couple seasons. But I mean, if you can get a bunch of guys like that for our guys that are on expiring contracts, I say you do it. One of the guys that I'm really frustrated with is Brendan Drury, because I know you're a big fan, Breezy. So, you're a Drury stan. But I mean, he was a guy that if he would have been slugging like he had the previous 2 seasons, he could have brought a good return, because when you can get a second baseman that plays really good defense and hits home runs and produces at the plate, that's going to be a considerable return. But he can't seem to stay in the field, and now he's sick and he hasn't played for, I mean, it's really unfortunate. The Angels of this season is just so many unfortunate events that have been one after the other, and it's like, really.
Well, the other interesting thing will be if Artie actually lets them trade with the Dodgers, because the Dodgers love.
Why wouldn't you?
Well,
I mean, they have a great farm system, and just Artie needs to pull his head out of his ass and stop being so prideful. Like, oh, I'm not going to deal with the crosstown rival. If they can give us a good return, he should have traded Ohtani to the Dodgers 2 off seasons ago. Or at least at the deadline, we could have got a sizable return from those guys as well. But I think, and I've heard this, and I think you told me this as well, that he just didn't want to even deal.
He didn't even entertain.
Over there. So, what were we going to say, Breezy? I know that you were gonna chime in.
Oh, I love like a good conspiracy theory, and I was thinking that I feel like because Drury grew up as an Angel fan and like loves Southern California, that it's almost like he doesn't want to be traded, and has probably picked up on Trout and Anthony Rendon's really bad habits of like, oh, I can't come back yet, because he wants to keep staying on the team.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Well, I mean, he definitely hasn't earned a sizable extension or contract, right, based on his injuries this season. And you can't pay a guy for only having 2 good seasons in his entire career, right? So he could be a guy to bring back, possibly, right? On a 1-year, extension. And then, so who knows? I mean, I really like what I've seen from Luis Rengifo at third base. My God, he looks like a star over there defensively.
Agreed.
I mean, Rendon when he's healthy is great, or is good. But I mean, Rengifo looks like a really good third baseman defensively, and he's just, his game has just, on both sides of the ball, has really excelled, and that's why I've always kind of said, I don't want to deal Rengifo. I think the Angels should keep him. He should be a part of their rebuilding or retooling, whatever you want to call it, process. So
absolutely,
they need to decide,
I agree with that,
to extend him, or you got to trade him.
Right.
That's the thing, is they can't just keep him and then just have him play out next year.
Sure.
And not have but that's kind of my assumption of what's going to happen. So
what?
Oh, really?
Wait, what's your assumption?
I don't think there'd be an extension. I could be wrong. But it also depends, is Artie going to spend money this winter? Because this past winter was the weirdest decision.
It was a really strange offseason. I mean, we had the heartache of losing Ohtani.
Yeah.
And then at least there was a glimmer of hope with all those free agents out there and possible trades that they would do something, and they didn't. And except for spend what, 30 million on relief pitching.
Yeah.
One of which blew out his arm.
They kind of kept getting start and stop during the offseason. It was, spend, and then no, don't, and then spend. Because they signed Stevens, and I thought when they signed him, like, okay, they're going to be doing other things.
Right.
It just made no sense.
I wonder if they had a game plan or Perry had a game plan, and then Artie just came in and said, scrap it. We're not going to spend.
Right.
I know that you already spent money on relief pitching, but I don't want to spend anymore.
Yeah.
But to be fair, if you look at the guys that signed, I guess Bellinger's having an okay season, a pretty decent season with the Cubs.
Yeah.
But Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery have been disasters. And those were two guys that we were all kind of talking about wanting to get.
Absolutely. I was ready for that.
Yeah.
It was just weird. This whole, that's the thing is I don't see a definitive plan. So either spend or don't, but rebuild.
Right. And his whole take on not selling the team is that he has unfinished business, right? Mm-hmm. Well, to me, that's an indicator that you want to win, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't won a World Series. He's been to many playoff appearances in the 2000s, but only, I mean, it's been a minute, right? Yeah. Since the Angels have been in postseason play. And it's like, okay, you have unfinished business. You kept the team. You could have made upwards to $2 billion, right, from some of these suitors, and you didn't. And I just don't understand it. If you're going to keep the team and you have unfinished business, then let's get busy, right?
Yeah.
Then let's you lose Ohtani, fine, but you can still be a good team, right? I mean, they didn't win with Ohtani, right? Yep. And you could argue that's because Artie didn't put, pieces around Ohtani and Trout and Rendon. And, and then it's also unfortunate. It's really not on Artie that Trout and Rendon can't stay healthy either, right? So that's not really on him. But pitching has always been a thing for Artie, that he seems to not want to pull the trigger on spending money on pitching. And that's kind of been our issue, right?
Right.
He could spend the money where it's not spending a lot for the minor league infrastructure or going down to South America, and that's a lot cheaper than signing Garrett Cole to $300 million. So that's why I don't get how there's no one around him. I mean, there might be people and he just doesn't listen, but hey, if we spend an extra 15-20 million in scouting in South America, we could rebuild the farm system for a much lower price instead of signing 30-year-old free agent pitchers.
Right.
So that's why I just don't see there's a disconnect.
That. And then you're hearing these rumors circulating, and Victor Rojas mentioned this, that he's plugged into people in Major League Baseball, and they have told him that there's players that don't want to come and play for Artie. And you're thinking, wow, it's Southern California. You got Trout. And it's like, really?
I mean, Corbin Burns. There's no way.
Yeah. And Corbin Burns is from the OC.
Yeah, he was an Angel fan growing up.
He was an Angels fan. And he doesn't even want it. That's not one of his desired landing spots in free agency. It's just wild to me. So everything that we kind of knew to be true, right, is real.
Yeah.
And now it's like a ripple effect throughout Major League Baseball. How are you going to attract any really good free agents? You're really going to have to scrap. Like Victor said on the last podcast, he said there needs to just turn over the tables, rip off everything, erase everything off the chalkboard, and start completely over. Because whatever you've been doing the past decade has not worked. And so it's true. I mean, and even Jeff mentioned, he said, you know, I mean, whatever you've been doing, do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been the same thing every year.
Yeah.
1 year contract, 1 year free agent deals, not going fully in, not fully rebuilding. And I'm like, I get it for a couple years, like trying that, the in between to see if it works. But it's been so many years in a row now. And I don't know if Breezy could talk about this, but because she goes to so many games at the stadium. But I noticed when I was there in April, I did not have the same feeling being at the stadium. Like I remember when I was in high school and I'd go to games and yeah, they were playing well, but the stadium felt different to me. I don't know how to describe it, but it just kind of felt sad. Like if you walk around the inside of it, it needs a lot of work. It looks nice when you're sitting in the seats, you know, the field and, you know, the huge scoreboards and all that and the rocks. But like walking up to the stadium, it just felt like, okay, this needs refurbishment. It needs to be cleaned up. And it just kind of feels like the team too. It's just all kind of, and, you know, you go to Houston or, you know, Dallas to the Ranger games and they have such cool amenities outside of the stadium.
Yeah.
So people are hanging out before the game, after the game, and it just gives kind of a vibe of even if they lost, it's cool to go to the game.
Right.
It's fun there.
And I've experienced that. Yeah, I experienced that in multiple ballparks. The Atlanta Braves at Truist Park, amazing. If you ever have a chance to go there and see a game, go. I mean, they have this area called the Battery, and they got restaurants, places to get a drink, stores, everything, and then you just walk, and it's just long block of just and live music inside and outside. There's like this huge screen in this grassy area right before you go into the stadium where you can watch the game from the grassy area, so you don't have to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
And then you could let the kids run around and, you know, and they have live music. It's just amazing experience. And then even in Cincinnati, like outside of the stadium, when I went to see the Angels play this season, there's so many places to go to, like right there. Like, you know, and same with, you've been to Petco Park, and you know, it's same thing. And even with San Francisco, there's so many things to do right outside the stadium where, you know, in Anaheim, you gotta drive, you know.
Yeah.
So
well, I do know that the Ducks Stadium is building an entirely new
like entertainment,
some sort of entertainment thing, which that is across the street, but at least they're doing something. But it's like I genuinely believe that Artie is at the point where he doesn't want to spend any money on anything because he doesn't know where he's going to be, where the team is going to be, like if the team ends up moving to a different location, you know what I mean? So the only hope that we have is if someone else buys the team and they're like, hey, this is a cool spot and I want to build everything right here. But I mean, they've built like apartment buildings everywhere rather than we could have had such a cool spot. Like we have Carl Strauss and then that one other place that people go to when during game day. And that's literally it.
That's it.
Like there's nothing, but even then, like a couple of years ago, we didn't even have those. You know what I mean? Those are fairly new. So we are very behind the times.
But even if they didn't build a new stadium, there's ways where they could upgrade the stadium. And even if it was kind of piecemeal, like you do one thing in one offseason, one thing, then kind of like what the Cubs and Dodgers did. They just added things around the stadium to kind of make it more modern a little bit. Added restaurants, more upscale things within the actual stadium.
Yeah.
So there's ways to do it without having to spend, you know, $2 billion on a stadium.
Right.
But
and to take
I feel like that $2 billion that he could get for the team, that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on. You don't have Ohtani anymore. You don't have, Trout and Rendon are aging and they can't stay on the field. I mean, you do got a good young nucleus, but I mean, he's gonna have to like humble himself and say, listen, I screwed up. I should have sold when I had this high offer of $2 to $3 billion, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere near that, but even at the end of the day, for the amount that he bought the team for, he's still a rich mother. I mean, he is made a huge profit. So
Yeah.
what does it even matter what the number is? He's going to retire just fine. And so if your heart's not in it and the fans, I mean, aren't happy and people aren't coming out, even with ticket prices being so low, isn't that an indicator that, I tried, I thought that maybe I could make something happen, and, not every owner that buys a team can go to the promised land and get to the World Series and win. There's
Right.
been many ownerships over the years that have never gotten a World Series ring. So, Artie, it's time to hang it up, dude.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in their discussions. Like,
Oh,
what?
I know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know Perry enough to know what, but it would seem like he is just kind of a yes man. He'll just do whatever Artie says, right? Where, man, it would be great if he would just get pissed off, bang on Artie's table and say, God dang it, man, it's my name on the line here for this team to have success. And you're handcuffing me from wanting to improve the team. And he's in the last year of his contract, right? And so that's another thing too. It's like, is he kind of like is he like in this place where he can't even do what he would like to do because he's in his last year of his contract? There's so many things that are broken and disjointed, and it's sad, really.
That's
Well,
why
and
I'm
I
curious
also
if they
wonder
trade
if
that.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I also wonder if Perry even wants to stay. Like, if it is genuinely as bad as everyone says it is, like, why would he even care to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why would you want to stay in that type of environment where you're being handcuffed and you can't actually showcase what you want to do? And you know what I mean? He's probably going to go somewhere else and crush it.
Yeah.
I kind of envision him going back to a Braves type of team, not to be the GM, but like assistant GM. And then a couple years later, he'd get another opportunity as GM for a different team. That's going to be the interesting thing next month is if we start trading off a ton of guys, like if Ward and Rengifo get traded, then Perry won his internal, debate with Artie then. Because if Artie has it going how he wants to, those guys aren't getting traded, I don't think.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for is if they get moved, that means Perry kind of won him over or something, which might mean something in the offseason if he gets extended or wants to stay. But if it's Estevez and Strickland and, more and that's it, I don't see him being here next year.
Yeah. It's really kind of shifting to the players. I mean, it's really disheartening to see Joe Odell struggle so much after he showed glimpses of turning it around in April and part of the beginning of May, just to completely collapse the final, couple weeks of May and, this entire month. I mean, he just looks lost at the plate. And it's one thing you can live with his mistakes on the bases, and maybe in the field, although his fielding has been greatly improved. But he can't seem to hit the curveball. I mean, he's swinging through fastballs right down the middle of the plate. And it's almost like he's just up there guessing, right? And it's just, so, he was a big piece of the future. And now there's talk of trading him, and who knows what you get for him, right? I mean, you're going to trade a top prospect and number one draft pick of the Angels for some fringe prospect, I mean, what are you going to get for him? I mean, right now you just have to keep trotting him out there and hope that he turns it around at the plate.
Yeah.
Because you can't really send him back down to AAA.
Yeah. He's already had enough time there.
Yeah. And my thought process is that to me is why I'm scared of trading Taylor Ward, because we lose Taylor Ward, we literally are left with Mickey Moniak, who's or below 200.
Yeah.
Joe Adele below
Right.
200, and then Mike Trout, who literally cannot stay healthy to save his life,
Right.
or really seems like he wants to be playing baseball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's is that your official take, Breezy?
comment.
You know what though? There's something to be said. I think Mike does want to be out there, but there's something to be said to when you get into your 30s and you start to have a family, and he's got kid number 2 on the way, right? And if you're, and I'm not judging Mike Trout's heart because I have no idea. I mean, he seems like, remember how hurt he was when he got injured in that interview? Like he wanted to be out there, and now he's going to be out, and he's like, I want to be there with my teammates. Tears were rolling down. I was like, oh my gosh. But it's like, gosh, he was on a great trajectory, and he still will be one of the best Angels ever, and he'll still be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But he was on this trajectory of being like the greatest player in all of baseball, right? Or at least the top, 5 maybe.
Yeah.
And just the injuries have really sapped, that rise, that he had. And so, and it's unfortunate, and the Angels really need him because,
Yeah.
I mean, he's he's the only real superstar right now on the team,
Yep.
Hoppy and Neto and these other guys, they may become that, but I mean, they need Trout. I mean, they really do.
Yeah.
See, and the problem is, even if he asked for a trade or they wanted to trade him, you're not going to get some crazy prospect package back because of his contract, because of the injuries. I think a team like the Phillies or the Yankees would trade. It's Mike Trout,
right?
But I think some Angel fans I've seen online like, oh, we can get this guy or this guy if we traded him.
No,
it's going to be they eat a lot of money and you get maybe like a couple guys back.
Yeah,
that's why it doesn't. I don't think it makes sense to do that, because it's better of seeing if he's healthy. If he comes back and plays even close to what he can be, I think that's much better than to kind of throw in prospects for Mike Trout.
And I'm so curious to see if he chooses to go the Bryce Harper route where he just sucks it up and goes and plays first base. But obviously we can't really do that if we have Nolan Shonowell. So it's like,
yeah.
I mean, they could
can't stay healthy. So it's like, what are you expecting him to do? And he refused to just be the DH the whole year and get the surgery down the, you know what I mean, during the off season. So it's like, it seemed to me, I only made that comment because it just feels everything is very like his image. And he's like, I'm not going to, I don't want to move from center field. I am the center fielder. And it's like, okay, well, if you can't perform or stay healthy, then you need to do what's best for the team. And it's like, I'm not coming back unless I'm, 150% better. And it's like, well, maybe you could just come back and like be a part of the team. You know what I mean?
Torrey Hunter left center field for him. When he got a little older, he went to the corners. So,
well, remember, Mike Trout did slide over to left field for Peter Borges.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's done it before, and he needs to do it probably in the next year or two, because he still moves really well. But there's just a lot more ground to cover in center field, and if the Angels in one of these trades can actually get a really good defensive center fielder that can also hit. I mean, not hit like Mike Trout, right? Obviously. But I mean, that's productive. I mean, that should be something to look for, because there's really nobody in the system that is a center fielder outside of maybe Nelson Rada. And he's 18 years old and he's struggling in Double-A. He's probably going to need 2 or 3 more years in the minors, to be honest. Yeah. So, I mean, those are some kind of things to look at. And, Travis, you and I talked about certain names. I'd love the Angels to go after Garrett Mitchell, get Garrett Mitchell, former number 1 pick out of UCLA from the Brewers.
That's kind of something you could see if you did Anderson and like a reliever attached.
Right.
Get some like Mitchell and maybe like a pitching prospect back, which
Yep.
I would love. Like Aaron Ashby type of
Right.
name I've heard. But like the Dodgers have a ton of really good defensive outfield prospects, good pitching, and they have a third base prospect, Jake Geloff,
Yeah.
who I know if there was a Dodger trade, his name would be centered on one of the trades. We don't have a third base prospect.
Yeah.
There's no one in double. I mean, Fontenelle, but he's now dealing with a major injury that's going to take a while to come back from. But Geloff would slide in. He's only in high A, but probably being double A by the end of this year. But he would give him a legitimate third base prospect after Rendon, which they need.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, Rendon is probably somebody that you're going to probably want to slide over. Maybe to second base. I like I said earlier, I like Rengifo at third base over anybody.
Me
Period.
too.
I mean, his arm, his range. Just some of the plays he makes are just like wow. I mean, and so I like him there. Looks like we got Miguel Sano back today, so maybe he can start hitting home runs out of the DH spot. Get something for him too.
Is he starting today?
No,
I don't know.
Oh,
nope.
He
He wasn't in the lineup.
Oh, okay.
No, Guillerme is playing second.
He's another guy that if he continues to play well, gets on base, hits the ball. I mean, he doesn't have any power whatsoever, which is crazy considering he looks like Jason Kelsey. He's a big dude with literally no power. It blows me away.
Yep.
Slaps everything. But a nationally, or a team in the playoff hunt, they look for any type of bench guys who are versatile or good, and he plays good defense. So he could be a guy you could trade away for like a mid-level prospect, which getting anything for guys like that, him, Pilar, do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, they did say that Brandon Drury was fine today and he was available to play last night too, but he's still not on the lineup card either. So it's like
that's weird.
I don't understand what's going on. It's very weird.
Is strange.
And then Willie Calhoun is still DHing, so it's like they're not even trying to get him in there. So I don't know. I just feel like something's up.
Maybe
Willie Calhoun is a nice pinch hitter to have on a decent team, right?
Yeah.
But the guy has like 2 home runs between AAA and the Angels this year. And it's like, what the hell, man? He's not a DH.
He'd be decent off the bench, like a late inning, pinch hitter. Like,
right. And Sano was our DH, so it's like you call him up, but then you don't put him in that role. Like, I don't know. We talked about this last time I was on the podcast that Ron Washington has made some very interesting decisions with his lineup cards. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about Ron, so it's only a 2-year contract. So if Perry leaves, I'm curious, like because you don't get a GM. If you bring in a new GM, they usually want their guy. And Ron has basically a 1-year deal once this one ends. So that's another question. I'm like, well, what's the plan with that? Why did he only get a 2-year deal? Like, it just seems so uneven. There's no cohesive, like, pairing with the front office.
What is the vision? And he definitely was hired on with lots of expectation of going into this, and he pulled his guys for the same reason and sold everyone the dream. And in every one of his interviews, it's constantly like, we're not focusing on right now. It's the future. We're building, a really strong team. So it's like he's planning it. To me, it seems like he's planning on being in that role for a long time.
Yeah. Well, it seems like because when he was interviewed at like the winter meetings and even a few weeks after that, that's why I think there was a plan in place, Perry wanting to do more, and then it got the rug pulled out from under him because Ron was talking like, I forget what the quote was, but he was hinting at something big at the winter meetings they were going to do. And then nothing.
Well, he was even asked about Ohtani, right? And he said that he made it seem like the Angels were still in it,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think something happened, and already just, which sucks because even Mike Trout putting out feelers, right? And sending they said he was sending text messages to Perry and to Artie management about getting this player or that player to improve the team. And they're not even listening to Mike Trout anymore. Gosh,
it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But
do we know the timetable for Anthony Rendon when he's supposedly supposed to be back?
Started running yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
I heard that he may be back before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
So, and then Trout, shortly thereafter, maybe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be at least a fun. I'm a eternal optimist, glass half full type guy anyway, but it could be a fun August and September if you're thinking about it. If Neto is killing the ball, O'Hoppes and Rengifo and Joyce is now our closer, and and Shanuel continues to improve, and Trout's back and Rendon's back, and and they just finished the season to give us a little on a high note, right? To give us something to hold on to going into the offseason and then heading into 2025.
Yeah.
And some people call me crazy, but that's kind of where my head's at, or my hope is in, right? That would happen.
I would agree with you because I actually would prefer what's happening this season versus what's happened the last 2 seasons, which is the build up, and then July hits, they both get injured, and then the rest of the season is just like, when is this going to end? It's actually kind of nice that they got injured right away, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, they can actually stay healthy for the rest of the season. Because normally August and September, we're like, okay, Jan, this is terrible. You know what I mean? Nothing's going to happen. Yeah. But the fact that we have something to look forward to is pretty cool. And we had the hardest part of the schedule done. And now the easiest part of the schedule is coming. So it's like, I know Travis doesn't want us to win any games, but I'm just kidding.
I don't trust
But
Artie.
it sure would be nice if all of a sudden we just come out and,
I mean, it helps that
we got some momentum. We got some momentum heading into the offseason, and it's not anything that, you look for. But to your point, Breezy, it's like May and June have been disasters, right? Yeah. For the most part. And, in May losing, Trout and Rendon and June's been a disaster. And so it's like, get these guys back, see the progression continue in a positive way for the Netos and O'Hoppes, right? And Joyce and then Sam Bachman's even coming. All these guys come up and they show some positive development with the club. And then you take all that positive energy heading into the fall, into the offseason, and then maybe Artie, gets more, maybe he gets some more suitors to buy the team, or he pulls his head out of his ass and, he actually wants to spend and invest not just on potential free agents and improving the team on the field, but to your point earlier, Travis, like the developmental part, like the farm in the Dominican and the international stuff, and so and even getting more scouts, and whatnot. So I mean, it's just that's my hope, right? Because otherwise, it's just if this team just sputters along, even after getting Trout and Rendon, and there's no really anything to sink our teeth into heading into the offseason, I mean, who knows what to expect? I feel like it's just going to be a very meh, offseason and little to no hope heading into the 2025 season. And so, yeah.
Well, and from a season ticket holder perspective, like if they don't do something, like I already know so many season ticket holders after this, how bad it's been, that they're like, I don't think I'm renewing. And they've been season ticket holders for 20 years.
Can't blame them.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, yeah, it's been, and I think you had mentioned it at the beginning of this podcast that like we're still, there's still like a large attendance. that's not the case. Like maybe that's the tickets sold, but there's no way that that's the number of how many people are actually in the stadium. The stadium has been empty.
Yeah.
95% of the games I've been to, it's been empty.
Well, also if you're on the road, like when I've gone to Astro Angel games past 4 or 5 years, there'd be a decent amount of Angel fans at Minute Maid Park. I went, 2 or 3 weeks ago when they were here, and I think I could count on my hand how many Angel fans I saw when I walked the entire stadium. So even that, I mean, just the optics of that looks bad. That people are like, I'm not gonna travel to go see them.
Yeah.
At the Ranger game, I think I saw 2 Angel fans.
Jeez.
It was pretty much Ranger. I mean, in the past, it's been, you might have like 10% of the fans, Angel fans. Like, they used to travel pretty decent. Even like when I went to the Yankee games, there'd be a decent amount of Angel fans there. But they need something to sell it. Either you spend money to compete, or you're gaining prospects and trades where it's like, in the next few years, they're going to be really good. Come to the games, you're going to watch all these young guys playing. They'll be hungry. They have Washington managing them, but not the in-between. They cannot do the in-between anymore.
Yeah. The fans that are in this stadium are mostly for the opposing team.
Jeez. Yeah.
1,000%. Like, and actually, I think that's why they do better on the road, because it's probably really like disheartening to come into your home stadium and the other team is being cheered for so loudly, like, and then you go away and it's like, oh, well, at least they're supposed to be getting cheered for. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, the Phillies game, like 60-70%, I felt like, were Philly fans.
Mm-hmm.
They're very loud.
That was at the beginning. That was before we were bad.
Yeah.
It's gotten way worse now.
I mean, that's got to open Artie's eyes. Even if he's just in it for money, like if you start looking around the stadium and you just kind of see every little aspect getting a little worse, you're not making, there's not as many fans come in, not as many people spending money on merch. Like, it's got to hit him eventually. Like, something's not working. But
that's the hope, that he just keeps taking these hits, and then he's like, "Get me the hell out of here! I tried and I suck, but at least I suck being a retired billionaire."
True, but I just can't do it. I can't not go to games. I have to support.
Yeah,
you're a trooper.
In Breezy, I'm that same way, right? I still watch the games, right? And it's just now if they start looking like shit, I'll just change the channel.
Yeah.
And then you get all these notifications on your phone and your Apple Watch, of, oh shit, Ohtani hit a home run.
Yeah.
Tune back in, and so but
I torture myself every year. I'm like, I'm not going to go to any more Angel Astro games, and then I get talked into it, and then I go and it's like 9-2 in the 5th inning, and I'm just surrounded by drunk Astro fans, and I'm like, I'm doing this again, and then I get sucked back in again each year.
Oh. Well, it's still my hope, Breezy. We talked about this, how I'd like to come in September and have like a little fall fan fest and do something underneath the Big A, do a massive tailgate and get some live music going, or a DJ or something. We've done this stuff in the past. And so I just hope that there's enough excitement for people to even come out to even want to do that,
I know.
But again, getting back to my point, just to have that positive momentum, that even though the Angels may be in 4th place, maybe 3rd, doubtful, but 4th place, but then they're playing really well, right? They're doing the little things right. There's positive development in the players that are part of the future. And then Trout and Rendon can put some games, string some games together of health and productivity, right? And then you just take that and you just take that into the off season, and then so if that happens, I'll be there in September, and you said you're an event coordinator, planner, and you're the right person. We'll make it happen.
And
we'll get Travis to come out.
Yeah, I feel like because we're not surrounded by a whole bunch of bars and stuff, that's something Artie should be doing every single game. Like having food trucks, having music.
Right.
The Ducks Stadium does that every game. They have the food trucks, the music outside to where it's like you're at least giving them something. Give them a fan experience. And like I think we have food trucks like once a month, maybe. I don't know.
Honestly, that's an easy fix. I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't do that today. And then, of course, you can talk about not having a fan fest.
Yeah.
Is it over a decade now? I mean, when's the last fan fest? I mean, the last one I remember going to was in 2004 when Vladimir Guerrero was there. And yeah.
My son signed baseball.
Yeah.
What is it? I know I've been to something that they throw every year, but it's always in like the middle of the season. It's in the parking lot. No.
Oh.
No, it's
I
in the
do remember they had like a stage out there, and then
I think it's like a mariachi band, and they have games, and they have tents everywhere. They do something like that every year. I actually don't know if they did it last year. Not that I'm saying that. Maybe it stopped, but I know I've been several times in the past couple of years. But I feel like you were saying, Travis, like it is slowly getting sadder and sadder and sadder, and it's just like more things slowly stopping.
I mean,
and you felt sad in April, for crying out loud. That's the beginning of the season.
I know.
I haven't been to the stadium since I moved to Texas in 5 or 6 years. So I should have been the most excited. And I got there and I was like, this does not feel like my childhood stadium. It just felt off, which was weird.
Yeah.
But Artie did all that stuff when he first bought the team. He had the fan fest, the stadium. The upkeep was nice. The food was decent compared to a lot of other stadiums. So I don't know where the disconnect happened, where all of a sudden it just started to slide. So he did it before. It wasn't like he stopped it when he bought the team.
Right.
That's why I'm curious what happened.
I think Mike Trout blew up, and he didn't think he needed to put the effort in anymore.
That's a good
point.
Because he had his marketing tool. Because
then he got pools.
Right.
Yeah, and then he got Ohtani, and then he put it in cruise control.
Literally. It's like, I'm good. I don't have to do anything ever again.
And look what the Dodgers are doing with Ohtani. I mean, there's billboards, there's murals, there's events, there's the promotions and the advertisement. Artie, that's in Artie's wheelhouse. He is a
marketing
billboard millionaire, marketing genius, right?
Right.
And he didn't really fully, tap into that with Ohtani, and he should have locked up Ohtani 2-3 years ago, long term.
3 years ago, he came to him to talk about it, his agent, and nothing happened.
Just ridiculous. I mean, just everything, it's like, God.
However, I will say that I have spoken to Japanese fans of Shohei, and they feel like what has happened to Shohei at the Dodgers, they're like they hate it. Like they miss the old Ohtani, as they say. Like they feel like he has become Mr. Hollywood, and he's changed. And he's not the same respectful, sweet boy that he once was on the Angels. So I don't know.
That's good to know. Because I've noticed that too about Ohtani. He seems to be having a lot more swagger, and he's not the kindler, gentler guy that picks up the trash on the way to first base.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a good perspective. Thanks for sharing that, because I know that you do talk to a lot of fans that are Dodger fans, Ohtani fans, I should say.
Yeah. Ohtani fans for sure, just Ohtani.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I thought that was super interesting. I didn't notice it at all, but I kind of have blocked him out, to be honest. So I didn't.
Did you guys see my response to Sam Blum on X?
No.
So he responded to somebody about how he couldn't understand how Angel fans could boo Ohtani. Okay. And or have this be angry with him or whatever. And I went in and I basically had said it's not so much Ohtani, because I don't blame him for leaving, right? It's just that he's on the Dodgers.
Right.
And I, as an Angels fan, grew up an Angels fan, and I grew up as the Angels were the redheaded stepchild of Southern California baseball, or professional sports, mind you.
Right.
So I used to stay up late, try to watch the highlights. They'd play the Dodgers, even when they'd show the Dodgers highlights when they lost, even before the Angels.
Wow.
They'd sometimes shift to the Lakers, the Kings. Oh, and by the way, the Angels won 10-2 tonight, and show just a little brief highlight of Rod Carew driving in the winning run. And it's like, I mean, really? I mean, and so that's what developed my hate towards the Dodgers, and I was sticking with my team. And hell, I mean, even the newspaper, I told my parents, and you can't get the LA Times anymore. Every sports page is just filled with Dodgers shit. I said, can you please get the Orange County Register or the Press Enterprise? Because I was in Riverside. So, I said a lot of fans have that hate towards the Dodgers because of that.
Right.
Yeah. We've always been in the shadow, and so we don't necessarily hate Ohtani. We just hate where he's at. And I can't, and I'm like you, Breezy, I can't even look at if I see a Ohtani home run highlight, it's next.
Yep. I don't want it. Literally hits my soul.
It's painful. I mean, it's painful, because I thought we would have him forever. Maybe I was naive.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really thought that he was going to stay with the Angels, because, to your earlier point, Breezy, I don't think that he ever wanted to be that guy in the limelight in Hollywood, right? I thought he was the more reserved, like he doesn't want to be that guy anymore. And that's not the case, apparently.
Yeah.
So
apparently they've changed him.
Yeah.
No, if he would have signed with like Toronto or a team like that,
I would have been full. I would have been go Ohtani.
I would have said, I hope he does well this year. But the Dodgers, any AL West team, or like the Yankees.
Right.
Yeah, but also it's not just the Dodgers. It was the deferring of the $700 million. Like,
right.
It was all of it. All of it just felt really slimy.
Yeah.
Everyone across the league feels that way. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Shohei Ohtani's all-star ratings have been nowhere near Aaron Judge. And I think I even saw Alec Boehm on the Phillies had more votes than Shohei Ohtani. So it's like, and I even saw a Dodger fan on Twitter posted it and was like, okay, so does our fan base suck at voting? Or is it the fact that no other fan base willingly wants to vote for him because everyone is so mad at the contract?
Right. Yeah.
I remember.
And the other point with Ohtani, he also said that he didn't want to be traded. Yeah. Right. If he didn't want to be traded at the deadline this past offseason, also knowing full well that he was going to leave for the Dodgers, screw that, man. He screwed the Angels out of, but it's not just Ohtani, right? It's twofold. It's also Artie. Who gives a shit if, a player says, I want to stay here, don't trade me.
Right.
Business, your business and your company is paramount to what your employee wants, right? And so, I mean, for the betterment of the future of your company. And so, but the other argument is that Artie wanted those butts in the seats. He wanted that marketing money, for the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah. So. And I've heard that Artie was genuinely shocked that Shohei left. Like, he genuinely believed full-heartedly that he was going to re-sign with the Angels. So it's like either there was a complete miscommunication, or
He completely missed out the market then.
But yet his players came out later after he signed elsewhere and said we knew all along he was going elsewhere or he was going to the Dodgers. How can the players know? And I think even Phil Nevin said that, right? Ex-Angels manager. How could everybody in the clubhouse know, but not upper management?
Yeah,
It's like,
connect everywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, because if I remember right, we didn't even offer anything close to what the Giants, Dodgers, Toronto offered. I don't think Artie was going to go past 500.
I don't think it was ever released how much the Angels.
It wasn't. I don't know what it. Yeah, you'll have to talk to your insider guys and get the scoop. Travis.
I'm pretty confident. When it happened, it seemed like the Angels were not even, like the last week of that, they weren't even really involved. He called, or the Nez called the day of and said, "Oh, if you want a match or not, he's going to go." But that last week they were not in like the final teams in on him because they were not going to go even close to that amount, or Artie didn't want to defer anything, which is a different conversation. But
right. Well, guys, closing thoughts before we wrap up episode 39. Breezy?
My closing thought is I am just like you, Chuck. I am an optimist. I think that they're all about to come back and we have an easy schedule left. And I mean, look at the Astros. They were in 5th place and now they're in 2nd. Like anything can happen. I'm hoping for a crazy miracle. Obviously, our pitching is non-existent now that Patrick Sandoval just went down. We didn't even get into that. But I mean, it's hard to get into all of the things that are wrong when literally everything's going wrong. So
we would need a 2-hour, 3-hour podcast to actually go over every piece of where the Angels need to improve on.
I know.
If they get rid of Tyler Anderson, it's another issue, right? You got to fill his hole. That
was one of the points I was going to make when you guys were talking about getting rid of Tyler Anderson. I'm like, okay, so then what? Like, I know Chase Elseth just got bumped back up to AAA, so he'll be back soon. Soriano should be back whenever his weird virus thing is. I don't know that's a weird thing.
He's been another one that I didn't mention, Breezy and Travis, that he's another positive development. Came out of big time.
It's been amazing, but it's almost like maybe he was feeling the fatigue of the fact that finally he's a starter. And so they're like, oh, he's sick. Yeah. Let's throw him on the 15-day IL. I don't know.
I think they're saving
to give him a break. Yeah, I think they're trying to give him a break so that they don't ruin him. But I mean, Detmers needs to get his stuff together. So it's like, I don't know. Pitching is scary, but
they would have to, if they did these trades, get a guy or two who are like AAA Major League that they can just slot in. They would have to do that.
Absolutely. If we're trading Tyler Anderson, we better get a pitcher that's ready to go.
Ready now. Yeah.
Yeah, because
we can't wait on anybody for 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Like we don't have that luxury whatsoever. And he's been absolutely phenomenal for us this year. And he's a fun one to watch. I'm sad I'm not going to the game tonight because literally him screaming fuck is like my favorite thing. He does. If he messes a pitch up, he literally screams to where the whole stadium hears it.
Tyler Anderson does? Wow.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Yeah. He's like literally one of my favorite people to go watch for that reason.
So how many fucks are typically in a Tyler Anderson start?
At least 3.
Oh, okay. I mean, he's been good enough this season. Yeah,
like the loud ones they're at least 3, but I'm sure he's saying it, much more than that. But like where the whole stadium is like at least 3. Yeah. He's fun.
Travis, your closing thoughts before we wrap it?
Probably the next month will be on Hug Watch for trades. I have a prediction. I think Tyler Anderson gets traded to the Brewers and Taylor Ward goes to the Padres.
Oh.
Whoa.
Just a couple things. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
And
interesting.
I'll give you a couple names too who I think could be coming back.
Okay.
So from the Padres, Carson Montgomery, Homer Bush Jr., or Jay Bashirs. So those are three names I've heard in the past week. And then for the Brewers, they have a pitcher last name Blaylock, who is kind of up and down right now. And then a third base prospect named Mike Bove. So that's my little prediction. See if I'm right.
I predict that that the Angels will finish strong, and that's where I'm going. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's
I hope
yeah.
so.
My prediction is the way that I've seen Neto and this team play, and Ohapi and Soriano pitch, and I and getting some guys back now. I really think they're going to finish. And to your point, Breezy, the teams we're playing now versus the first 2 months of the season, there's some room for some positive, momentum heading into the fall. So
I thought I saw somewhere that the 23% of the remaining games are Oakland,
right,
Yep.
White
Colorado, White Sox.
Yeah.
Yep. Saw that
We'll
as
see.
well. That's all great news for us.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Especially when Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon got hurt on the first part rather than the second part.
Maybe we'll flip it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of sucks to be all down and out in the month of May and June already, right? I've never experienced this really with any Angels team, because even the years that we've completely sucked, we at least hung around, and there was always, some type of hope, and now it's just like, my God, now you're just looking for those little silver linings in some of the
Now we're
players.
about to go on a 20-game winning streak, so
all right, everybody. Yeah, well, thank you, Breezy and Travis, for joining. This is going to wrap up episode 39, the Angels Win podcast. Pleasure to have you both on and talk Angels baseball. Let's do it again.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to the AngelsWin.com podcast with Chuck Richter. Until next time, go Halos.